We're talking about how to start an LLC in Rhode Island, and what you can see behind me here is a checklist that we're going to be going through. I'm casting this from my computer, but more important than that, I want to talk about something I call the LLC dumpster fire. Now what that is when you're not familiar with terms such as piercing the corporate veil, commingling funds, registered agent, and pass-through taxation, or after LLC formation, you don't look into the LLC renewal process or understand the proper business licenses and permits that are required. When you don't understand these things, it creates potential legal liability for you that can cost you tens of thousands of dollars down the line despite setting up an LLC. Now, to better explain all this, what we're going to do is we're going to zoom out a little bit and talk about what an LLC actually does for your business so that we can zoom in and then help you get your LLC set up and set up correctly. Now, the LLC does two things. It offers limited liability protection, and it also offers pass-through taxation. Why don't we take a look at an example of owning a coffee shop without an LLC? This will help explain things for us. Now, what you can see here is a business owner, a sole proprietor, and they have their personal home, car, and bank account on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, they have their business assets, the point of sale, the business bank account, the physical location, the espresso machine, the lights. All this is directly connected back to that business owner. This creates a lot of potential liability. Now, you can have a different scenario, owning an LLC that owns the coffee shop. Well, this looks very different. Now you have the business owner on the left-hand side with their personal assets. On the right-hand side, we're calling it Acme Coffee LLC. Here you can see that the LLC has all those business assets with that. The red line, that division in the middle, is something called the corporate veil. What it does is it separates your business and personal assets. Now, you probably recall at the beginning of the video, we talked about a term called piercing the corporate veil. To explain that right now, what we're going to do is discuss something called commingling funds. Commingling funds is simply put where you have your personal bank account, you don't set up a business bank account right away, and you start running business transactions through your personal bank account. The reason that this is important is let's say that somebody were to get hurt at the coffee shop and they hire an attorney to sue you. That attorney is going to look for cracks in your LLC. If they can prove to a judge that you've been commingling funds and the judge agrees with them, they may grant them permission to pierce the corporate veil. What happens in that situation is this division in the middle here, it actually dissolves, and that attorney can come after your business and personal assets. So that's why it's so important not only to set up an LLC, but make sure that you set it up correctly and you're aware of things such as commingling funds. So the lesson right here is once you get your LLC set up, get a business bank account set up as soon as possible because it's really important for your business. Now, what I want to talk about next is an explanation of pass-through taxation. Let's look at this example of the Acme Coffee LLC again. Let's say you grossed $140,000, you had $90,000 of expenses and $50,000 of net income. What happens here is the IRS is not taxing Acme Coffee LLC. That $50,000 in net income passes through, is also sometimes called flow-through taxation, into your personal tax returns. Now, if you hear pass-through or flow-through taxation, they're used interchangeably, but I just wanted to make you aware of this because this is something that people are unaware of. This is actually a good thing because it makes it so you don't have to file additional forms for your taxes. It actually makes tax time a little bit easier. Now, you can make tax time a little bit more complicated, and the way you do that is in the future, you can apply an S Corp designation to your LLC. The reason that you would do that is you can save on taxes via dividends that you pay yourself through the business. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated when you're doing that, but we're going to actually discuss that in the third video in this series because it's not just about getting your LLC set up correctly. I also want to inform you on the things that are available to you down the line once your business is making enough money. Now, in this checklist to start your LLC, first step here is just get this checklist for yourself. There'll be a QR code on the screen that you can scan right now. There's also a link in the description below. This is a free checklist, and it's actually got a lot of cool bonuses in it as well. In the bonus section here, there's an AI chatbot. This is something where you can do like a quick thing like how do I register an EIN if you're not familiar with that. And this will give you a detailed list of the steps that you need to take to register your EIN. You can also do stuff like how do I start an LLC in Rhode Island. And this again, when this one's done here, is going to give us a detailed list of exactly how to do that. So this is a pretty cool feature. There's a free charitable opportunity. There's a yearly accounting calendar, which we're going to explain in a future video in this series. So all of this stuff is super helpful. If you watch to the end of the video, we just direct you to the next video to explain these things. The glossary of terms is really helpful. There's a video in here, LLC scams. This will save you a couple $100 from stopping you from like thinking that you have to pay a few extra $100 for some certificates and things of that nature. It's a quick video, but highly recommend you watch that as well. Now, decide on which route you want to go. You can go through the state website, you can go through online LLC services, or you can go through a business attorney. For the sake of this video, we're going to go through the state website, but in the next video, we're going to deep dive on these 3 options for you to make sure that you don't overpay when you get your LLC set up. Now, what you can do is decide on your business name for your LLC. The thing that's important here is you need a unique name. It can't already be taken within the state of Rhode Island. Now, it doesn't need to be the perfect name. Acme Coffee LLC is a bad name for a coffee shop, but you can have something called a DBA or fictitious business name that can exist underneath that LLC. So you can have Espresso Yourself Cafe be the brand name. So just know that it's not locked in to be your brand name. Your LLC name is not necessarily your brand name. So what you need to do is search the availability. We have a state database list here, and we're going to scroll down. We're going to find Rhode Island. And then what this is going to do is you can enter the name. So I'm going to try something here because Rhodey the Ram is the mascot. And what you get here is a bunch of names that are using Rhodey, all right? So those names are taken. So if you wanted Rhodey Baby Sleep Solutions LLC, that one is taken. But if you go in here and you just kind of jam out in the keyboard and do a search, now what you can see is there's no records found. Try a new search using a different search criteria. So that little line of red text there is what you want to see. That tells us that you have a unique business name that is not being used in the state. Now what you want to do is once you have a unique name, you can get started with forming your LLC. This first step here, registering your LLC name. The reason that I mentioned that is this is simply just securing the name. It's not actually forming your LLC. Some people get confused by that. What you actually want to do is you want to write your articles of organization. And again, we have a state directory link here. So if we scroll down, these bullet points will actually explain quite a bit about this process. But we're actually going to go in and look at the actual document itself. So here we have what is called the articles of organization. And these are the instructions for filing. Why don't we go down a little bit? Here you can see there's a filing fee of $150. That's as of making this in this video in 2024. But the first article is the name of the limited liability company. That is the name that you have found that there are no matches for in the state database. It's a unique name. 2 is the name and address of the initial register or resident agent office in Rhode Island is. So what is a resident agent? Sometimes this is referred to as a registered agent. In Rhode Island, they refer to it as a resident agent, but it's a third party that handles important documentation and communication for your business. So let's say that in the coffee shop you're being sued. What they're going to do is they're going to make sure that you get that service of process notice, which is essentially saying that you're being summoned to court. They're also going to make sure that you have all the important documentation that you need for that court appointment as well. Now, it's really important, and the rules around it is that they have to have a physical mailing address in the state of Rhode Island, and it cannot be a P.O. box, and you have to maintain a registered agent on file for your LLC. Now, one of the bummers here is they don't really give you a lot of options here. If you go through an online LLC service, all of them partner with registered agent services, and one in particular that we're going to talk about in the next video, the video that we talk about at the end of this one, is we're going to get into one that has a free registered agent service for the first year. Most of this is pretty self-explanatory as you're going through this. One thing I was going to say that I wanted to explain, members versus managers. So members are owners. Managers are people that operate the business. Now, if you're like a sole proprietor that's setting up an LLC and you're going to be running this yourself, you're going to be a member-owned LLC. Now, if you were to be starting an LLC for a business that somebody else is going to be running, that's where you would have managers. Now, next, 8, date when these articles of organization will be effective. Date received is usually when people are doing it. Some people like to push it out in case your business isn't starting at a certain date. And then name and authorized addresses. You're just going to sign this form and then be able to fill it out. And at the top here is an address where you would actually file your articles of organization. Now, yes, you can do this on the state website. You can create an account there. But I just wanted to kind of go through this to show you some of the aspects of the process. Now, what we're going to talk about next is after you filed your articles of organization is after LLC formation. You may want to consider creating and signing an LLC operating agreement. Now, what this is a situation where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Let's say that you have 11 different coffee shops that you've started now, but you have a business partner and that business partner wants out of the business. Well, how do you handle that? If you have an LLC operating agreement, it's going to talk about who the managers and members are, what are their roles and responsibilities, what happens if somebody needs to exit the business. It's very easy. You point to that document and that's what you do. But if you don't have that, you're probably going to get attorneys involved. It's going to be a very long, boring, frustrating, expensive process. So again, it's a good idea to get that LLC operating agreement set up. If you Google like free LLC operating agreement, you can find some online. The LLC Services typically will provide them for an extra fee, or you can go through a business attorney to do this. The state website is not going to help you with that process. Now, setting up an EIN. There's an IRS link here. What it is an employer identification number. Now, this is something where it helps the IRS identify your business. It's like a social security number for your business. If you're going to have staff on payroll, you need an EIN, but it also looks more professional to provide your EIN for different applications and forms as opposed to using your social security number. It's free to do this, and you can apply now online. If you go through the LLC services that are available out there online too, they will do this for you for an additional fee if you don't want to do it yourself. Now, obtain business licenses and permits for your LLC. There's a good SBA resource here, but what I would say is you have the federal government, the state government, and local government. This can happen on 3 different levels. So let's say you're starting a brewery and you're brewing beer, distributing beer, and serving beer on premise. All 3 of those things can require different licenses and permits, and again, on the federal, state, and local level. What I would recommend is on the local level, call your town hall and just say, hey, I'm starting this business XYZ. I'm wondering what licenses and permits I may need. And if you have any insights on if I need anything on the county level. For the state level, you can just do a simple Google search, Rhode Island plus, business licenses and permits. You can do the same on the federal level as well. Now, if you don't want to do this on your own, those online LLC services, a lot of them will provide research packages that'll do the research for you and direct you on exactly what you need to know. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. Now, in the next video, what we're going to be talking about is the different options for LLC formation if you don't want to go through the state website. There's a lot of reasons why you may want to go through an online tool or through an attorney. What we're going to be talking about is the fees associated with starting your LLC. There's going to be a LLC cost calculator on this page, and it's going to show you down to the dollar what it costs to have an LLC in your state for 5 years. That includes all fees that you may not be aware of. We're going to go through the star rating system and where this came from. We're going to talk about why state websites can become a pain, and it has to do with domestic versus foreign LLCs. And we're also going to get into the questions worth asking to specifically figure out which path is the right path for your needs. Now, I've seen people overpay by close to $1,500 getting their LLC set up. So that's why it's so important that you watch this next video. And before you do that, again, if you haven't already, you can get this checklist for yourself. It's free. There'll be a link in the description below. And we'll catch you in this next video. And I look forward to showing you a little bit more about getting your LLC set up the correct way. All right, we'll catch you in the next video.